Hello everyone, welcome to my first impressions for Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. So right off the bat, I had an issue with this game, a pretty severe one, and that is that the mouse didn't work correctly. For a PC release, because we're going to be reviewing the PC version of the game, that is kind of a travesty. That's already a really big negative to your game. Hopefully a hotfix or a patch will fix this. I'm pretty sure Bandai is aware of the issue at the moment. Enough people are reporting it. So I do have, like, you know, a gut feeling that we're going to get a fix to this soon. But just wanted to let you guys know right off the bat, there's a little bit of a tinge to my gameplay experience. However, I did plug in an Xbox 360 controller. It plays fine with that. It actually, in a way, kind of felt more comfortable, and I'll explain that later, I guess, with how the abilities work. But let's just say if you're playing it with a controller, you're going to be okay at the moment, and some people don't even have the mouse problem. It really is just a crapshoot at the moment, so chances are you might not have it, but you might have it too. It's a bit frustrating. Now, onto the gameplay. Well, to start, before you even get to the gameplay, you have your character customization, and I have to say, pretty impressed by it. Like, you know, it's not the deepest character customization menu I've ever seen, but if you've played Dragon Ball Xenoverse, and I'm going to make this comparison a lot, to Dragon Ball Xenoverse, because I feel like these games really are kind of the same in a lot of ways. If you've used that character customization, it's basically the same, only, you know, obviously there's no race menu in this game. It's more just, you know, pick your human avatar character. But the customization is good for male and female characters alike, and I think they can interchange their hairstyles, so I always appreciate that in games, and yeah. So this game doesn't necessarily have, like, traditional like DPS, tank, and whatnot classes. I mean, it does later kind of into it, but it's a lot more about how you want to play and which kind of gun style you like to use. For me personally, I like going between the sniper rifles, SMGs, and assault rifles. However, I've seen videos where there's people with dual P90s and a pistol and a sword, just like Kirito from the second season of Sword Art Online, or Gun Gale, or whatever you want to call it. I watched the anime. I'm not, like, the world's biggest fan or anything, but I have seen it, and I will say this game has a lot of similarities in the way that the game kind of plays out and feels. It's not necessarily, like, one-to-one with the show or anything. It takes a lot of creative liberties, of course, but I think they're all for the better. As you see, when you're firing on enemies, there is an auto assist mode. You can actually disable this at any time. However, there's one big problem with this mode, and that is it kind of has auto aim regardless of the assist mode being on or off. And what I mean by that is people who are sniping, typically when you try to lock onto an enemy with your scope, you start hitting the center of their chest even when you're trying to get a headshot and aim at their head, because the game is trying to, like, auto position your cursor somewhere on the enemy and not on the critical spot, which is a bit annoying, and I kind of wish that they could remove that, but I've got a feeling like it's hard-coded into the game since this is more of like a PC port from a console game kind of thing. Now, if you're playing as a run-and-gun class, this isn't really a huge deal, as all you really need to do is, while you're mid-firing, just aim up a little bit or aim down a little bit, you know, depending on where you need to be shooting. But if you're playing a sniper or a precision-based class, I can see it being a bit annoying, as getting those critical hits is really your bread and butter as a class like that. Now, as for running and gunning, there's a lot of skill abilities that actually really complement this, and the fact that the assist mode is actually really, really useful for these kind of classes makes it really dynamic and it flows well. You might look at the gameplay and go, wow, you're not even having to aim, it looks so easy. But the thing is it's not really necessarily about your aim being good. The critical shots do certainly help you put an enemy down faster. However, I'd say it's more about learning how to be mobile and, you know, reduce incoming fire and use proper buffs at the proper times, all that kind of stuff. This game, like Xenoverse, is all about the abilities that you have, when to use them, how to use them, all that kind of good stuff. As you can see at the bottom right of the screen, you have 4 abilities, and you also have a gadget slot that will let you equip things like med packs, grenades, that kind of thing that are on a cooldown. Now, the skills are also on a cooldown, and you can, of course, interchange them. And a neat feature about the skills is you can actually change them between different weapon types. So if you want to just rock assault rifles and SMGs, you can put different skills on the two different, ARs and SMGs. So you can have sort of like a cool interplay of, hey, I can switch out to this weapon to do a cool dodge move that reloads my gun, and then, switch to this weapon right after it. So I get the free dodge and the free reload, but I have another gun that's loaded, and then I can use this gun set up to, I don't know, do an armor buff and a speed buff, and then switch back to the SMG and keep moving, that kind of thing. In that way, this game feels wonderful, and I really like the way this plays out. Now, I'm only 4 hours into the game, so I've not, scratched the surface of this customization in terms of abilities, but what I can say so far is, even at its earliest phases in the game, they're really fun and enjoyable to use. And I think that's what's important in a game like this. So, if you're going into this looking for some sort of like really tough shooter game, you're not quite getting that. This kind of feels more like an MMO in a way, which kind of makes sense with the theme of the game, but just don't go into this expecting like top-notch third-person shooting, but it has a very good third-person shooting mechanic to it, as well as the ability to dodge step with the B button on the controller, as well as do combat rolls that can put you behind cover and do other kind of things for precision shooting purposes. And yeah, so honestly, the combat isn't the deepest combat I've ever seen, but it's challenging enough to have even put me kind of back for a second to really reevaluate how I go about an engagement. Now, that's not to say it's like the toughest game in the world. You can abuse the AI pretty badly in some spots. When you're out in the open wasteland environment, there's a lot of moments where enemies kind of lose track of you if you just go behind a little piece of cover or behind a rock or a piece of terrain. So it's really easy to kind of throw them off of killing you. However, in a straight-on one-on-one gun battle, you will lose a couple of fights at the beginning of this game before you really get the combat system down. And I do appreciate that, because it shows that there is a skill to this game, and it isn't really just a game you can blast your whole way through. It's a game where you do really need to invest in your abilities, your skills, your stats, all that kind of stuff. You also get to customize a follower who is sort of like an AI companion who gets to be put into the, Gun Gale online universe with you. And this person's really cool because not only do you get to customize how they look, but you also get to customize certain things that you wouldn't think you'd get to customize. You get to give this person, or this AI rather, an allowance, and you can actually customize how you want them to spend this allowance, and they will buy themselves certain upgrades and items for you and equip them themselves, or something kind of around that line. And they'll also buy you stuff, I've heard. So I'm pretty interested to kind of see how that system's all incorporated into the game. You can also go to your AI companion to ask them to change color of equipment and change colors of the weapons that you have, so there's even more customization there. And also, they're just a generally funny companion. They have a lot of interesting little dialogue sections during the game. Now, that's a problem and also a good thing about Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. There's a lot of dialogue. I mean, you're going to be smashing the skip button like no one else, and I think honestly it's a good thing if you're interested in the story. Now, if you're just trying to try out the game on Steam for 2 hours and then maybe refund it if you're having mouse control problems, you're not going to like that, because you're barely going to get to touch the game and the gameplay, because a lot of that first 2 hours is text and dialogue and cutscenes. And like I said, it's not that they're bad. Actually, a lot of them are really funny, and if you pay attention to some of the ones later on, they're pretty interesting. It's just, when you're trying to just get into the game and give it a chance and see if you really enjoy it or not, it kind of sucks when, like, your first impression is just you smashing the A button over and over and over. So overall, I'd say this game has a really fun and enjoyable learning curve with a good combat system with plenty of various abilities and whatnot to kind of keep you incentivized to build different classes and try different guns and try different ways of playing. So far, I've only put 4 hours in, and I'm eager to go back and play more. Honestly, most games I lose attention, like really fast with, and this one has kind of grasped my attention. So I think that's a good sign if you're an ADD person, I guess, like I am with games. So that's my review. Thank you guys for watching.